Hello. Update time. I'm doing this pretty soon after I finished filming my last week's wrap up because I wanted to get these thoughts out before I completely forget about them. So I ended up DNFing Remnant Population by Elizabeth Moon. I got bored. The story completely lost me, and I just could not find any reason to bring myself back to reading it, which is unfortunate because I did want to enjoy it, but it wasn't doing it for me. I also DNF'd Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdes. Had much of the same issues. The weird pacing kept going, and I think I got about 60% of the way through, and it got worse in terms of having the characters go off and do weird hijinksy side missions, but it never actually did anything to expand on this side cast of characters, this group, this found family crew that Eva is so connected to. If it got more Mass Effect fanfiction-y, Eva spent some time on what is essentially the Citadel, and elevators are mentioned constantly, so Mass Effect. But yeah, it was weird. There were some time jumps that were a little odd, and then if you want to do Mass Effect fanfiction and have all these moments where stuff is happening in different areas and you have little small missions, why don't you take different characters on those missions? Only 2 characters ever go on these missions, and one never gets the same depth of character building that the love interest does. So, and even that is just I thought the developing love story, the romance, was a little cute to start with, but and then Eva she just kept getting worse and worse, more selfish and more annoying. I don't care how often you tell yourself it's your fault and you're a terrible person and you're bringing your friends into danger, just because you're going to own your mistakes doesn't mean that you can keep making them and keep thinking it's going to be okay. And then a reveal happens, which I saw coming from the very first mention of this character. And then something happens at the 60% mark where I had switched to the ebook because I had both out, but my audiobook, I think it's actually, the loan has already gone back because I ran out of time, but I still had a couple days left on the ebook. So I went to the ebook, and I was literally in bed and this thing happened, and I was just I just kind of put my Kindle down and I was just I'm done. I'm going to sleep. It was just so ridiculous. And I didn't understand why it was happening at that point in the book. Either you have this happen very early on and then deal with the ramifications of it throughout the whole story, or you have it happen at the very end and make it part of the climax. This happened at 60%. And I was just I'm not doing any more of this. I'm not doing any more of Eva being so woe is me. And then she was such a badass, and she's stupid. She was a stupid badass and not as charming or as lovable as people like Commander Shepard or Mal from Firefly, nowhere near it. So yeah, very disappointing because if this had been tightened up more, if this had been, better pacing with a little bit more character development for all the other characters that we're supposed to love, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but this was way too long of a book for what it was trying to do. So very disappointing. I would love more Mass Effect type, fiction happening, but fortunately, ended up DNFing that one. And then lastly, no, I do have something else to talk about, but I finished the Tokyo Zodiac murders. So this one, what to say? Okay, so in my Goodreads review, I said it's hard to review something like this because there are 3 different ways to view a book like this. 1, you're viewing it as a novel on its own. 2, you're viewing it as a mystery novel against the backdrop of other mystery novels that exist and the general mystery novel canon. And 3, you're viewing it as a translated work. So it's really hard, when you have those three filters, those three ways of thinking about this, especially with the translated filter over it. It's really hard to deal with reviewing a book like this all on its own as a book, and a book like this as a mystery novel when you have that filter of that layer of translation over it. So I think it was very, I don't know that I really enjoy this version of mystery where the characters, the detective, and his sidekick are talking to each other about the story, and it just had so many info dumps. It was info dump after info dump after info dump, couched in like meandering asides. Like, did we really need to be taken on a guide of Osaka? Like, and most egregiously, by the time I got to the end of this, there are two separate fourth wall breaks where the author writes to you, the reader. It's like, hey, even before you continue from here on, you have everything you need to solve the mystery on your own. Can you do it? And then a little bit passes, and then the second one happens. It's like, no, really, you have everything you need, and you've had it since before this point in the book. Can you solve it before you get the answer? And no. There, sir, Mr. Soji Shimada, no. It was ingenious. It was very interesting. There's no freaking way with the clues that we have that I would have gotten that puzzle. I'm sorry, no way. And I'm not a dumb person, but I'm also not the kind of person who looks to a mystery to try to solve the mystery as I'm reading. I just let the story take me. So I enjoy it. I enjoy mysteries as mysteries. I don't enjoy them as puzzles. But even so, the puzzle of this mystery, how the hell was anybody supposed to figure that out with the clues that we had? And the murderer with the clues up. No, disagree. I do not think there was enough at that point in the book to say how the murders happened and why and by whom. But regardless of how I felt about that, it was a very unique puzzle. It was very interesting, and I gave it 3 stars. I think it could have been better. Really didn't like that, like, the wink wink nudge nudge, dare you to solve this moment. But for what it is, for a mystery novel, for translated work, for a book on its own, solid 3 stars. I do see why it is a classic, and I think I will read more from this author. I just hope it's a little less ridiculous in terms of the how, or at least not so you have everything you need. I was so annoyed by that. I was like, no, I didn't have everything I needed. How the fuck was anybody supposed to figure out that? No way. I disagree. Anyways, that was Tokyo Zodiac Murders. Lastly, last night another library hold came in, and I was like, let me start reading this and see how I feel about it. And then all of a sudden it was 1 a.m. and I was 40% of the way through the book. And that book is Generationship by Michael Mammay. Now, that's not to say that this is a great book, but this is a sci-fi political thriller, I would say. You could take something in the vein of a Tom Clancy, or even more recently, Stacey Abrams, in terms of a political thriller. You're just putting it in this backdrop of a sci-fi where it takes place on this generation ship that left Earth hundreds of years ago, and when it first left Earth, these rules were put into place to try to keep the ship and its civilization alive until they reach this planet that they can hopefully colonize. And as they approach the planet, people are starting to chafe against, it starts with protests against the mandatory, you hit age 75 and you die, end of life thing. And then it starts to snowball because all these different people have different motives. So we follow a hacker, we follow a guy who gets put in charge of the protesters, revolutionaries, we follow the governor of the ship, we follow a scientist who is a director of a section that is actually looking at the planet now that they've reached it. And then there's questions on top of everything of, is there life on this planet and what can we do with the planet? So it's very interesting in seeing all the pieces of how all these characters are interacting with each other, or interacting with the interacting and reacting to the moves that other characters are making. So one character does this because they want this outcome, and the other character does this because that character did that because of the first character's outcome. So the interweaving and interlocking of all these character stories in the greater story of the political unrest happening on the ship is very well done, actually. I just wish that it was a little more unique in terms of the like character work and the political storytelling that it's going through, but I blew through it. Like, obviously it's a very compelling read. I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's a little bit too long. I think it's like 600 pages or something, but I'm enjoying it. It's a good sci-fi thriller. It's pushing me through. It's giving me what I want right now. So happy with that. I probably will finish in the next day or two, just kind of blast through the rest of it pretty soon. So good start to the week. It is Monday, so hopefully my reading keeps going that way. I do have a project in mind, but knowing me, knowing I have a project just makes me not want to do it. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe if I don't think of it as a project, but only review the books separately and then put that together as a video later, maybe I can trick my brain into being like, we do want to read these. So yeah, happy Monday, and I will catch you in the next clip. This is what happens when you're so busy all week that you completely forget to film any more wrap-ups since the first day, so the first clips that you already seen. And it's all of a sudden Sunday evening and you're supposed to have a video up. So I am in the closet. This is our dresser, because my husband is doing D&D right now downstairs and they are very loud, so I'm trying my best to get as quiet a space as possible. They also have the AC running, so if you hear that, sorry. Doing the best I can. So I guess kick off with what I finished. So I did end up finishing Generationship by Michael Mammay, and I gave it 3 stars in the end. So as I said before, the book is very compelling in how it has characters and situations that lead from one thing to another, to form another, then form another. So decisions are made pinging on, other decisions that other characters are making, whether they know those, decisions are made or not. And that kind of informs the whole story, and it feels very much like a political thriller in that way. That we're like kind of like, this is a political thriller at the forefront, and then it just happens to have a backdrop of sci-fi. But the sci-fi backdrop is interesting. The generationship, the whole idea of this generationship of people finally reaching this planet hundreds of years later, and all of the political tension starting to boil over and eventually erupt as, they reach their destination, and all of a sudden policies that were put in place when the ship first was launched don't make sense anymore. So it's interesting in that way. It's very compelling. I read it in 2 sittings essentially, or like, maybe is it a sitting if you're like lying in bed and you just keep like pressing next page, next page, next page until you finish the book. 2 sittings. And though it was compelling in that way, though I just wanted to keep reading and keep moving, like the pace was really good, the forward momentum was really good. All of that for me was at the expense of the character work. Now I know we have 5 characters, and maybe somebody else would feel differently about this. Like, we do get in the heads of these characters, but these characters did not feel like real people making real decisions. They felt like puppets that were there for the author to write them to make a decision because they are this trope of a character, they are this trope of a person, and that's what they have to do so that this plot can move forward in this way, so that the whole plot moves forward in this way, so that this character then has to react in this way and do this thing. They didn't feel like real people. I didn't actually care about any of them. Some of them even felt like, eventually just felt like kind of ridiculous caricatures of characters, which I guess maybe works if all you want out of this is for the plot. If what is happening here is a very plot heavy, plot structured story that is being told, then that works. But for me, even though I am totally fine with plot heavy books, I still need to feel like at least one person is a real character. I don't have to like everybody. I don't have to root for everybody, but I have to feel like there's some meat to these characters, like there's some soul to these characters. Like, who was the worst? I think his name is George. He was the absolute worst in terms of like a real person. He did not feel like a person. He felt like a cardboard cutout being pushed along with the plot. Like, eventually, like, he is kind of manipulated and pushed along, and he has so little, he has no agency. And it, like, he doesn't want to be a union leader. He's manipulated into it. Then he's just like, oh, I don't know, I just have to be here, you know, to be a calming presence, and that just keeps blowing up, and just like nothing he does is born of any actual decision making that he as a person does. He as a real person, listening to other real people making real decisions, nothing he does makes sense. Nothing he does is something that any real person would do. He just does stuff because the plot needs him to do stuff. That kind of stuff. So that's why I bumped it down to a 3, even though it was very compelling. You know, I read it in 2 sittings. I just gobbled this up. The characters weren't real people. It was just so cliche by the end. So, but, you know, I would still recommend this if you just want a fast, fun thriller ride of a sci-fi novel that will propel you. If you want to, like, if you get through the first 2 to 3, so if you get through all 5 points of view 2 to 3 times, you will know exactly what the book is doing, and you will know by then if it's for you. If you don't like it, if you don't like what it's doing, nothing's going to change. You can dip out. But I would still recommend it if you really just want a compelling read that's easy. You want to scratch an itch, like you want to scratch like a political thriller, sci-fi political thriller itch. I think I put in my Goodreads review, I think I said, this is like John Grisham, Tom Clancy, Stacey Abrams, and Lois McMaster Bujold got blended up and thrown into a novel. So, yeah, Generation Ship, 3 stars. It also didn't need to be almost 600 pages. Did not. But I don't regret reading it. It was a good time while I was reading it, but not the best thing that I read this week. What was next? I read The Necessity of Stars by E. Catherine Tobler. My Goodreads is linked below. You can read my review there. I gave this 4 stars, a very enjoyable read. However, I am going to be doing this is from Neon Hemlock Press. They're an indie press. I am going to be doing a Neon Hemlock video reviewing about 6 of these novellas, so I'm not going to go in depth here. But when I do that video, I will come back and link it in the description when it is done. But Necessity of Stars by E. Catherine Tobler, I gave this 4 stars. On to what I am currently reading. So on my Kindle, sorry, like I'm just all janky here, like this is what happens when you do last minute shit. On my Kindle, I am reading an arc of Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I was so flippin' excited to get approved for this arc. The book comes out in July, so I'm reading it now to get this advanced review up. And I really enjoyed Camp Damascus from Chuck Tingle last year. And I met him at Comic-Con very briefly for a signing. He has just amazing energy and amazing presence. Like, he was so cool. I was literally in the middle of reading the book when I went to get it signed, and I told him I was in the middle of it and I was enjoying it. He was like, "Oh my God, that's so great. Like, do you want a picture?" Like, he asked me if I wanted a picture, so I didn't have to be awkward to ask for a picture. So I got a picture of Chuck Tingle. And after my experience with Camp Damascus, like, I obviously know about his erotica. Like, I've known about his erotica for years. I enjoy his erotica. I enjoy him as a person. I enjoy what he's doing, the statements he's making. But I was very excited to see, I am very excited to see this horror novel, this horror career kick off for him, because Camp Damascus was very good. My husband read it and he blew through it, and he's not a huge reader. He reads stuff here and there, and he's been asking me for just recommendations, although he also loves Chuck Tingle, so it was obvious he was going to read that. He really loved it too, and we're Chuck Tingle fans at this house. I can't wait for it to come out so that I can buy it and so my husband can read it, because it's my Kindle. He doesn't really read on the Kindle or anything. So, tangent. Bury Your Gaze. So this is another horror novel coming out in July, and it is a love letter to all of the gay characters that have upheld or are the basis for the bury your gaze trope. And this trope is one where you can have, where so many TV shows and movies and media, as the inclusion of gay characters, LGBTQ, gay lesbian characters, etc., were being added and normalized, most of the time, a lot of these gay characters were killed off in the name of drama. And Chuck Tingle is taking it a step further, creating a horror novel out of it. The main character's name is Misha, and he has a lot of references to bury your gay character trope, like the big ones. So the first one is, and okay, so I'm going to warn for spoilers here for, oh, do I even, okay, it's been forever. I am sorry if this is spoilers for you, but if you're going into this, like, just skip this whole bury your gaze section if you don't want to know about gay lesbian characters on TV shows like CW, NBC, etc. TV shows that have been killed off. So I will put you can go to the end of this timestamp here. Hopefully I'll put it up here. If you want to skip or just stop with the bury your gaze image when it's off screen, that's when it's safe to come back. So the main character's name is Misha, after Misha, oh my God. Misha from Supernatural, who plays Castiel in Supernatural. That Misha. His main character is named Misha, and Castiel, Dean and Castiel was a big fandom favorite ship, and the end of Supernatural, the way they handled Dean and Castiel was a fucking mess. Ooh, I stopped watching Supernatural around season 5, after season 5, but I still followed, stuff in the periphery, and hearing about what they did to Dean and Castiel at the end of the series. Yeah. Tangent. I'm going on so many tangents here, but back on track. Bury Your Gaze is about this Hollywood writer, Misha, who is currently writing a very popular sci-fi fantasy TV show. And he finally has these 2 female characters who are finally, in this season that he's writing, are finally going to admit to their feelings for each other on screen. And he's told by the studio that he has to kill them off. And that kind of sends him into a tailspin. And as this is going on, he starts seeing this character and images from horror movies that he's previously written. So there's some creepy stuff going on. The first chapter ends magnificently And I say magnificently to say that I know exactly what vibe Chuck is putting down, and I'm picking it up. I was just like, something really kind of gory and horrific happens, but also kind of made me laugh. But like, I made me laugh in shock and disgust and delight because I knew where he was going with this story. And it's been so great. I think, if I remember from Chuck Tingle's Instagram, he has mentioned, so obviously there's Misha from Supernatural. He has also mentioned Lexa from The 100, and I was never a big Clark and Lexa girly, but I understood that, like, the pain there. I think he mentioned someone from Lost. I never watched, I watched Lost, but this part was completely, like, blanked on me. I don't remember this character at all. He mentioned that character from Lost, and then there's one more that I don't remember. But, like, so he is referencing this bury your gaze tropes. It's very meta. So I'm still very early on in the book, but I'm so excited to go on. I am a bit of a wuss because the horror, like, imagery and characters are showing up is really creepy. So part of me is just kind of like, okay, that's enough for tonight, because of course I'm reading on my Kindle, so I'm reading in bed, you know, with the lights. Eventually I turn the lights off. So yeah, I'm excited for that. What's next? Am I currently reading it? No. Oh, yeah. Duh. Oh my god. I'm only reading one of the best fucking books of the year. Like, I am 316 pages into The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez, and it's already in my top 3 books of the year. This is incredible. I am like, every time I keep reading, every single turn of the page, I am just astounded by how good this is and how incredible this is. It's so hard to explain this. Essentially, the basic story is that there is this kind of dead goddess who is being taken on a journey by these 2 warriors across the land. That is the basic what is happening in this novel, but it's so much more than that. It's a story within a story within a dream. It has interesting storytelling techniques. It just, I can't do anything off the cuff right now. I think when I finish reading this, I'm going to have to really sit down and put all my thoughts on paper, write it down, really do something, because just, this is astounding. Like, I really loved The Vanished Birds when I read it last year, but this is just blowing it out of the water. Like, this is incredible, and I am so sad that it has been going under the radar as much as it has. It needs more recognition. I just love it so much. It's so hard to describe, but you go into it and it's just like, I get chills thinking about it. It's just, this is so exciting. It is so exciting to see and discover a new author who is just doing incredible things with storytelling, with art, and fantasy. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep rambling and saying it's exciting and not tell you anything else, because it's so hard to describe this, you know, as I said before. So The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. My bookmark is flying off, and like, I do want to show off this bookmark. So one of my friends got me this bookmark. This is my favorite work of art. It's the waves off Kanagawa. Yeah, it's my favorite work, but the actual title of it, I'll put the image here. It's a famous Japanese block print. It's my favorite work of art, and she saw this and thought of me and sent it to me. It's metal. It's like absolutely beautiful. You can kind of see it there. So yeah, so that's the bookmark I am using for this, because it just, I don't know, something about it, it just fits. It fits. So yeah, so that is The Spear Cuts Through Water. This is slow going, even though I started this week and I am this far in. It's slow going just because of the nature of the storytelling, the nature of the way Simon Jimenez is weaving perspectives and tenses and oh, it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's so good. I can't talk about it. Like, I, I think when I finish this and get all my thoughts down, I'm probably going to have a single standalone video for this, maybe my first standalone review video, because I need to gush about this, and it's just going to keep going. I don't see myself giving it any less than 5 stars after this point. It is in my top 5 reads, and probably if I'm going to go look at the list, it's probably going to jump up to like in the top 3, if not the number 1 thing that I've read this year. So, oh, it's so good. Please go read it. It's so good. Okay. That is what I've read, what I'm currently reading. It is Memorial Day weekend in the US, so that means lots of sales. So I have a mini book haul. It's not as much as I thought I would get, to be fair, but it is new stuff. So the first thing I got is the new Stephen King. I am a Stephen King girly. Stephen King is essentially what kept my love for reading for fun going when I had to read so much stuff in high school. So when I was younger, my grandfather read Lord of the Rings 2, and then with me, I read a lot of, comics. I read a lot of Roald Dahl. As I got older, I started reading famous, there's the Famous Five, the Boxcar Children, the Secret Seven, Nancy Drew Hardy Boys, and then as I got older, I went to Sweet Valley, Babysitter's Club, stuff like that. And then in my teens, my mom was also a big reader, so she loved Stephen King, and she let me pick up every single Stephen King book she's read. So I've probably read about 80% of his oeuvre at this point. The stuff I haven't read tends to be the stuff he's released in the last 10 to 15 years. Because I have no interest in the Mercedes series, Holly and stuff like that. I have no interest in that. But Stephen King short stories, I was like, yes, down, 100% buying it on the day it came out. So I am so excited to get to this at some point. Yeah, nothing exciting. It's just a plain hardback. I do like that yellow color though. So that is that. A little creepy on the back. I like that. Oh, the fucking crocodile. Oh! It's alligator or crocodile. It's an island. Holy shit. Huh. That's the first time I've noticed that. And I only noticed that because I turned it over and saw the scales and the tail here. Incredible. Okay. So that is that. And then next I bought Lost Ark Dreaming by Suyi Davies Okungbowa. This is a novella. It is a sort of sci-fi dystopian-ish novella. Climate fiction novella. It sounded interesting, so I grabbed it. I'm a big fan of sci-fi speculative novellas, and this seemed more intriguing than most that have come out lately, so grabbed that. And then I grabbed The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. I enjoyed The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, although parts of it, were kind of meh. But this is sort of a speculative end of the world murder mystery going on. It has orange sprayed edges, which I love this. It's like a fucking creamsicle color or something, darker than creamsicle. It has this sort of map of this island here. And, oh, the yellow is okay. That's an okay yellow. So yeah, this is essentially some kind of apocalypse. It's post-apocalyptic. The only survivors of the world are these people who live on this island that is surrounded by a fog. Then a murder happens, and then something about it kicks off the fog, starts encroaching on their island, and they have like 104 hours to solve the murder before the fog envelops them and kills them all, I guess. So that appeals to me. I'm really into trying to find speculative murder mysteries. That's becoming my jam lately. So I was very excited for this. The more I look at this cover, the more I really enjoy the colors. Like that sunset, the orange, and then like just this orange sprayed edges kicking it off. So yeah. So that's that. Those are the 3 books that I bought, my little book haul. I am going to try to hold this up for the thumbnail. So that's my wrap up. Hopefully this video turns out. I'm gonna find out when I finish filming this and editing if it sounds okay. We're gonna get back to normal next week. Let me know what you have read this week, what you think about anything that I am reading or have read. Let me know if you've read The Spear Cuts Through Water, because I need to gush about this to anyone and everyone who will listen and make more people read it. And yeah. Thanks for watching, and I hope y'all have had a good week, and I will catch you next time.